Hello and welcome to episode 2 of It Matters How We Treat One Another, the social psychology show. I am your host, Matthew David Vasco, and I want to open this episode by saying something I probably should have said in the first episode, which is that the purpose of this show is to be uplifting and to try to help us all in our daily interactions. It's not meant to be a substitute for any kind of support you will receive from a mental health professional. And I want to say this: if you're struggling, then by all means seek the help of a mental health professional. There's no shame in that because mental health is health. Just like you would go to the emergency room if you break your arm, you should go to a mental health professional if you're suffering from anxiety or depression or whatever might be troubling you. And I know we probably don't hear this enough, so I want to make sure that I say it, which is if you need medication to treat your depression or anxiety or any mental illness, then by all means, please take your medication. It takes discipline to stay on medication, but it's worth doing. Sometimes it takes time for it to kick in and to really start to work. And it might take 2 or 3 medications till you find that just right one, but it is worth doing. Many people can be mentally healthy with the help of medication who would otherwise probably have a terrible struggle. So please take your meds, stay on your meds. This week, we'll be continuing on the topic of despair and the possible remedies for despair. Last week, I mentioned that community and connection are proven ways to lift ourselves out of despair because we humans are social creatures. Thus, my passion for social psychology. My guest this week, Dr. Zanaida Stewart-Robles, is a doctor. But Zanaida is not the kind of doctor you might think of when you think, oh, well, we're going to talk about despair. My guest and I will be pondering this question: can you sing yourself out of despair? See, Dr. Stewart-Robles is a doctor of choral music and works as a singer, conductor, and a composer of choral music. And so we're going to be talking about what a chorus might be with regard to being a source for community and connection. So we'll be talking a lot about lifting yourself out of despair through music. So stick with us. But first, this is from one of our viewers. Gina watched our first episode on YouTube and wrote to me asking if I had ever heard of Mel Robbins and her 5-second rule. I checked out Mel's website, malpaper.com. That's MALPAPER.com. And it says that the main purpose of the 5-second rule is to break our thought patterns while making a decision. Basically, if you're feeling stuck and you count down from 5 and force yourself to move or do something, take action, this interrupts your thought process and sets you on a new path. I see how this could be helpful when we're talking about things like we did the last episode, such as suicidal ideation. Because in interviews with people who have attempted suicide, researchers have discovered that in many cases, the urge to take one's own life was only with a person for as little as 10 minutes before they acted. Just 10 minutes. So if we apply Mel Robbins' 5-second rule to this situation, if you're feeling stuck in a mind frame of suicidal ideation where you're considering harming yourself, then count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then get up and take a 10-minute walk around the block. Count down from 5 and phone a friend. Count down from 5 and call 988, the National Suicide Crisis Lifeline. Basically, count down from 5 and then break the cycle. Break out of that sort of mind frame that you're trapped in. The 5-second rule could literally save your life. So thank you, Gina. This is the kind of thing I want to encourage with this show. I really want us to use the show to build a community of caring individuals. So thank you, Gina, for writing, and thank you for that tip. One thing we're going to do each episode is have our inspiring news segment. Like I mentioned in the first episode, if you love this segment and want to be part of it, and things are happening in your neck of the woods that are interesting and inspiring, perhaps something really fantastic is going on there with a nonprofit organization, or someone is working hard to help people in need, then please email me at mdvasco@gmail.com. That's M as in Matthew, D as in David, Vasco@gmail.com, and let me know. This week's inspiring news story comes from goodnewsnetwork.org. And the title of the story is "Humans Are Living Longer All Across the World, and the Male-Female Longevity Gap is Closing." I thought this was a piece of hopeful news. It's kind of uplifting to hear that we might all get to live a little bit longer, or that people are living longer in general, that maybe, grandpa and grandma will be around for the grandkids a little bit longer. This is all good news. And I think part of what is lending to this article is that we're learning more about aging, and we're learning more about taking care of our health. Here's a quote from the article. The authors split world populations into 5 clusters and found each area demonstrated longer life expectancies and fewer disparities between genders over the last 30 years. They also said their data predicts that these trends will continue into the next decade. So there you have it, your inspiring news. News to lift you up, make you feel good, and make you more hopeful for the future. And now, on to our interview. Can you sing yourself out of despair? With Dr. Zanaida Stewart-Robles. And you'll want to stick around to the end of the interview to learn what you can catch choir leaders doing on Sunday mornings. And it might not be what you expect. All right, stay tuned. I am here with Dr. Zanaida Stewart-Robles. She is a singer, director, and composer of choral music. Welcome, Zanaida.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I am so excited to have this conversation with you, because we were chatting about this and I just thought we were onto something. So I'll ask you the first question, and then people get a sense of what I'm talking about here. So our topic this month, of course, is the topic of despair. And my question for you is, do you think that participating in a chorus or group singing might be a possible remedy for despair?
The short answer is yes. I think that the whole idea and the whole point of coming together and singing with someone, the reason we do that is to create a sense of to create something that feels good. And that the very physical act of moving air through your body, resonating, you know, through using the resonant structures in your body to create this resonant vibrating sound, and that sound meeting someone else's sound in the same room, that feels good. And if you just start there, it's almost like you're guaranteed, at the very minimum, sort of this resonance massage.
Hmm.
How wonderful is that if you're, in a difficult place, to just even start there by resonating with your neighbor, and imagine amplifying that, by two or by four or by six, or, by my choir, our choir at neighborhood church is 35. That's a lot of warm, wonderful, massaging resonance. That just feels good. And then if you put on top of that the things we sing about, you can sing about all kinds of things, but this idea of artistic expression, expressing yourself physically through music, this outburst, this physical action of expressivity is such a release, that even when you sing about things, topics and things that are difficult to handle, or scary or sad, there's something that about that process that feels good and can inevitably help, in difficult times. It's a definitely a therapeutic. It can be a therapeutic experience for many.
Sounds like there are a lot of elements there that contribute to well-being.
Absolutely.
And what might be sort of unique, or I want, dare I say it, fun about being part of a choir community?
Um, hmm. I think it's interesting. To be honest, I've been in my position as a director and a composer for a long time. It's been a little while since I've been in the seats of the choir. So, but what I remember loving when I was actively singing in choir more often, um, you're on a team. You're on a team, and it's your teammates. And imagine, if you think about, what do you do with an instrument? You play it, right? We play our instruments. You play music. That word play, isn't lost on me. And though we're not playing instruments, we have a body, like essentially our body's our instrument when we sing. We're playing our instruments too. Um, you get to play. Like, how much fun is that? Like, that's just the bottom line. You get to play with your friends. You get to play on a team. There's not an opponent necessarily, and maybe the notes on the page. Sometimes they win, and then it's funny, and then you make mistakes, and you have triumph, and you fail, and then you succeed, and then you get the support of your community around you supporting you, and you know you get to perform for them, and you get to receive their gratitude. um that is so gratifying and so fun to be able to do on a weekly basis.
And what about like less formal singing, like singing at church, or some sort of community singing that isn't maybe as structured as a chorus? Do you feel like people might see a benefit there as well?
I hope so. You mean like when you're in the congregation maybe and you're like singing hymns or something, kind of?
That was kind of what I was
um
thinking. Yeah.
yeah. I am uh notoriously adamant about congregational singing. And I really try to encourage the congregation to sing because I believe in the benefits of that. And one of the benefits I believe in is the fun of it. I mean, especially, there's something about this kind of informal engaging in investing in, using your body to create art, which is kind of what we do when we're singing, even when we're just singing hymns, or just singing the singing out song. There's that song. think about the feelings when we sing our kids out, at neighborhood church. We have a little song that we sing, right? And it's familiar, and it's special because it has our UU words, and everybody kind of knows how it goes, and everybody is so uplifted by it. And no matter what's going on in the service, that song always gets smiles and laughs because it feels good. That's kind of an example of, you know, kind of informal singing. I think at its best. There are other examples too. Think about a huge football game at a big old stadium with hundreds of thousands of seats, and a whole bunch of people singing we will rock you. What feels better than that? I mean, that is just, and me, because I'm a choir nerd, I'm like, that's a choir. It is. That's what it is. It is. You can't get much better than that.
What about somebody who feels like their quality of singing is a barrier to them singing in a chorus? Like I could just imagine a listener saying, "Oh, okay, so maybe singing in a chorus would be good for me if I'm feeling a little down or something, but I'm not a great singer." What would you say to
There,
them?
there is a skill. Well, there are various types of choruses. There are various skill levels, and there are various entryways into singing. Singing is an activity. It's an art form. Anybody can make art, but some people are more skillful at it than others. And there's always going to be beginners. Well, what do you tell a beginner? You have to start somewhere. And so if for beginners out there who are thinking they might want to try something like this, but they're not confident in their skills, or they might be struggling like that, a low stakes non a low stakes casual sort of setting, like a church congregation, just singing simple things like that. That's a great place to start. And understanding that it's not about how good one sounds, because that's subjective. Like one person's opinion of good is different from another person's, is different from another person's, and so you can't really go by that. You have to go by what it feels and how it feels, and how it connects you to the person singing next to you. And with always the goal always is to connect, is to blend, is to harmonize, is to sing in unison. And the thing about singing is, when it's working, excuse me, and when you start to get it, you really you actually feel this satisfying sense of unison, or a satisfying unison, meaning everybody's singing the same note, right? You can feel that, and you start to be able to feel the satisfying sense of harmony, and you get the hang of it. Most of the time, people get the hang of it with a little bit of practice. And as you get more used to it, as it becomes more, more natural, more easy, you learn the songs, you learn the tunes. Eventually, you can do more and more challenging things, to the point where, you're ready to take your skills a step further, and perhaps, become a part of a regular ensemble or something like that. But there's a place for everyone to start, and to there's an entryway in, for every person who might have an interest.
Speaking of starting, where would someone maybe stumble upon a course, or are there databases out there? How does a person find a chorus to get involved with?
Oh man, well, we have the internet at our fingertips. It's just like the whole of human, information and knowledge, right? Absolutely. Start with the internet. I would do a search for community chorus in your area. Community chorus is a really good place to start. A lot of times there are community choruses. Sometimes there are some that require auditions. Some are, excuse me, some community choruses are sticklers about singers being able to memorize stuff and hear stuff and sing it back. There are many singers they sing by ear. They're really, really good. Like, if they can hear a song on the radio, they can pick it right up right away without looking at any music. They don't really have formal music training from schooling or anything like that, but they get music, and they sing it all the time, and they can pick up a song right away. a lot of community choruses really value that asset in a singer. Other choruses require singers to have a little more skill and knowledge behind them in terms of training or experience and sight reading, reading music. And some people are actually better at that. That's more their comfort level. They prefer to read a piece of paper that has notes going across a staff rather than to have to memorize something. So different singers bring different skill sets. There's a choir for every skill set and for every entry level. An internet search is a great way to start. And again, I'm not gonna hide the fact that I am a proponent of churches, and many denominations have music that is accessible. It's designed for sort of this low stakes, casual community singing that gets everybody involved in a way that is not intimidating. That's where I got my start. It starts in our congregations. It's something that I'm always hoping, our society will kind of take notice of as an opportunity for us to find connection and in a place where we can nurture ourselves artistically and musically.
What are some possible hazards or downsides to singing in a chorus? What should people be aware of?
That's funny. It's funny because I think of hazards and downsides, and I was like, um, there have been instances of choir members. Um, occasionally there's the occasional, conductor tyrant. Stay away from those. You don't want to end up in a choir where it's all about the person, on the podium. And that happens, conductors like to lead, like power, and sometimes singers come away disenchanted with singing because they encounter a leader that doesn't really that isn't really catering to the needs of the choir members. That can happen. Other hazards, but I mean, but then just do a Google search and find a different choir, or other things. Just being mindful of vocal. There are aspects of singing we have to be careful. You can oversing. You can hurt yourself. Singers are athletes, and like I said, singing is it's like being on a team. It's like being in a sport. You can hurt yourself if you overdo it, or if you do it without very good technique. And so it's helpful to be in an ensemble where excellent or at least decent vocal technique is taught, where you're encouraged to maintain a good posture and you're encouraged to breathe with a healthy breath that's supported and full, and where you're encouraged to open your mouth with lots of space and in resonance. All of those things can help keep you in good shape so you don't hurt yourself when you sing.
Very good. How can you sort of break the ice when you're new to a chorus? How do you kind of get to know people a little bit?
I think once you start, it's interesting. Singing next to someone and like your voices resonating together sort of does it for you. I think, at least for me, it always has. The people I'm singing next to, it's almost like you as soon as you open your mouths and you're all singing together, singing the same thing or singing harmony, or just once singing happens together, there's a physical. Sounds weird, but there's a physical intimacy that takes place, and that's a connection. And once you have that connection, it makes engaging in a conversation a little bit easier because you've shared something. That's one of the beautiful things about singing, is that it creates an experience that's shared and a physical connection that's shared that makes it inevitable that you're gonna connect on some level. It doesn't happen all the time, and it can be challenging for some, more for some than others, but that experience of singing together and having that physical connection through sound is undeniable.
Excellent. And what made you decide to commit yourself to choral singing, directing, and composing as a career?
I've always loved music, and I always have loved harmony. And from the moment, like as far as back as I can remember, I just love the way it feels and sounds to harmonize with other people. I would harmonize with my brother. I try to harmonize with my friends. I harmonize with my husband. I harmonize with my teachers. Harmonize with my students. Um, Anybody who I can get to harmonize with me, let's do it. And so essentially, I brought what I loved to do as a child. I just was like, this is the only thing I want to do. This is what I want to do. And that's was like, this has to be my career. This is the thing I want to devote myself to. If I got to do this, every day, all day, um, wouldn't that be great? And sadly, I don't get to do it every day, all day. But I do love it when those times when all of the desk work, the admin, and the organization, the score study, the practicing, the preparation, um, finally leads up to rehearsal day, and we finally get into the rehearsal, and we finally start making music together. I It just kind of reinforces I made a good decision. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Awesome. What types of things might a person learn being a member of a chorus?
Oh my God, so much about your body, so much about your voice. You'll learn about poetry. You'll learn about history. You'll learn how math intersects with art and sound. You'll you'll learn how to read maps. That reading music is like reading a map. Excuse me. You so many things. You learn about, I said history. You learn about people's experiences. Um, just all kinds of things. You learn how different arts intersect. You learn about how our music, you learn music from different cultures. You sing in different languages. It's just a great way to find connection on so many levels, by learning and engaging in so many different aspects of our humanity.
And here's one for maybe our more experienced listeners when it comes to choruses. What's the secret to getting that coveted solo?
Well, hmm, the coveted solo. If you're in an ensemble where there aren't already assigned soloists, because some ensembles already have assigned soloists, in which case it's understood that these are the soloists, they'll be doing the solos.
Mm.
Essentially, you don't have a chance. But but there are opportunities that can come along, and some choirs you can vie for a solo opportunity, and in those cases, they will have auditions. And I mean, the best thing you do, memorize your solo, and you know, remember why you want to do it. It's the and for me, the best. So when I'm listening to soloists, the best solos are the ones that are well prepared and sound like there is a connection, like that the person really either believes in what they're saying or really is compelling.
Mm.
They're really selling, really bringing the character, really understands what they're singing about. Sometimes, and you may have heard this, you'll hear, maybe you'll hear a soloist sing the Star Spangled Banner. Sometimes we've all heard the Star Spangled Banner soloist that just kind of goes off and sings all kinds of weird things, and it's like, what is this like? It doesn't even sound like the Star Spangled Banner. It's like, why are we singing this? Is it about the song? Is it about the pride in our country, or is it about your runs or your sound? Like the best soloists are the ones that actually connect with me, and to tell the story, or I can see their heart and soul is into it, and they understand why they're singing and what they're singing about. You'll get the solo that way.
Awesome. Awesome. I think that's a good tip, really put your heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
That's good. Um, so I have like all these wonderful memories of singing in a chorus in high school. And when it comes to community and connection. Last episode, I talked about how community and connection can help us lift us out of despair, lift us out of depression.
Yeah.
Um, some of my favorite memories when it comes to community and connection happened after the singing was done. Do you know what I'm talking
Hmm.
about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the same is true. I mean, it's funny. The singing helps to facilitate relationships and connections. I mean, so true story. I met my husband in choir. It's like you're singing together, you notice each other, you already have that in common. And then all of the exciting stuff starts happening outside when you realize, well, there's more than this person than just the fact that we sing in the choir together. It kind of unlocks this all these other wonderful aspects of the people around you. So yeah, it's definitely a way to connect to people. The singing isn't the only great thing. It's all the stuff and the ways that relationships can evolve and blossom afterwards.
Yeah. Um, I just think, the more we talked about it, the more I really felt like, um, just having that something in your life to look forward to every week, you
Yep,
know, um, that lifts you up, that makes you feel good, where you're connecting with other people and, sharing something special with them.
yep.
I just see all that as all sort of wrapped up in the good things, the feel good things about singing together in community or singing in a chorus.
Yes, absolutely. It does take some, it takes some personal investment. You have to be willing to learn, and I think sometimes folks are surprised that it's it's when you really focus your mind on remembering how the melody goes or remembering what the words are. It's that's when the magic really happens. That's how that experience starts to take shape and creates an experience that really can be in the most you know I, in some cases occasionally people really experience profound um, have profound experiences when they invest that energy and effort into embodying this music through their bodies. Like that's it can be very, very healing and wholesome.
You mentioned feeling it through your body.
Hmm.
I mean, I've, you know, um,
Hmm.
seen performances you've seen through from beginning to end before, and I do notice that your choruses tend to be physical. They tend
Hmm.
to move. They're not just static people standing there,
Yeah.
putting it all into their voices, but they actually a lot of times even have choreographed movements and things. So do you want to say anything about that?
I mean, I there are other conductors and directors that encourage even more movement. I don't encourage movement as a technique. Like swaying or clapping. Every now and then I'll ask if a song will call for that, and I just can't help it, or it makes me if it feels good, do it, kind of thing. Um, but it is important. I'm not ever trying to go for like static uniformity, um, or like this militaristic look, or you have to be perfectly still because we're singing classical music. I work with a lot of classical music, right? So that part of part of posture, which is one of those elements of our vocal technique that helps. Um,
Mm.
Part of posture is being lifted and free and flexible. Um, and sometimes when you move, when you feel it, when you're really feeling the music, sometimes your body will take on some of that rhythm. Sometimes, and I always tell my singers, I want you to be intentional with your movements. If your movement compels you to have a gesture, that gesture could be very meaningful. So I would never discourage anyone from using a gesture that just like, if the singer just that comes out of them, by all means, I'm not going to stifle that. That said, I do always ask my singers to be conscious and mindful that their movements are intentional and
Mm.
meaningful.
Oh,
Intentional
interesting.
and meaningful. Like if you're singing and you don't realize that you're going like this, that may be disrupting your vocal technique, and maybe you don't really want that. So even if you're feeling the music, perhaps from a technical standpoint, maybe it's making you sound flat, maybe it's causing you to drag, other musical things. So movement is great when it's intentional and meaningful, and connected, efficiently to what you're doing. If it obstructs the sound, or if it creates inefficiency in the production, and it doesn't add to the result, then it probably should be, we probably should look at maybe a different choice. The best way I can put it.
Well, that seems fair. Sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Last question, then I'll let you go. How do you feel about people singing in their cars, singing with the stereo?
Oh my God, that's, of course you have to sing with a stereo loudly. Oh my gosh. One of my favorite things, like, just, I guess it was this past spring, I have this really distinct memory. Obviously I'm a church musician. On Sunday, it's a little known fact that on Sunday mornings, church musicians are out in force on the freeways. And they're on many church musicians they were a little bit crazy. There's a lot of really crazy church musicians driving very fast on the freeway.
Uh-huh.
And there was one, and if you're like me, you're listening to what else? Classical choral music on the freeway, of course, right? Everybody's doing that. So on the freeway, I'm driving like a maniac. Beethoven's Nine comes on the radio, and I'm like, ah! And at the top of my lungs, just the freeway all the way to church. Like, if I could do that, this is so fun. Like, oh yeah, I would do that every day. It feels so good. Sing at the top of your lungs in your car. Just don't have enough.
That's fair. That's fair. Good advice. All right. Well,
Yep.
thank you so much, Zanaida.
You're very welcome.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye. That was our interview with Dr. Zanaida Stewart-Robles. She is a joyful spirit, and I hope that maybe she's got you considering joining a chorus for community, connection, and uplift. And now for your takeaway. Your takeaway for this week's episodes are: 1, remember the 5-second rule. Count down from 5 and then move your body or take action in order to break out of a negative thought pattern. 2, sing. Sing in the shower, sing along with the radio in your car, or take that bold step of joining a choir for all of the benefits of choral music. 3, really put your heart and soul into your singing. Be free and flexible. Get your body into it. Move with intention and meaning while you sing. And finally, have something in your life that you look forward to doing each and every week. If it's not a chorus, then maybe it's a class or a hobby, but make it a healthy habit, just something that you look forward to every week and can keep looking forward to. Finally, please subscribe to keep up with all of our episodes, and you can support the show by shopping our Etsy store at etsy.com/shop/it matters merch. There's a link in our description. Your quote for this week is, we always like to end with a quote, and this week's quote is, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. By the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as his holiday was just recently. And that does it for this episode. Thank you to our guest, Dr. Zanaida Stewart-Robles. And remember, treat everyone with kindness, respect, empathy, and compassion, and try for acceptance and love whenever possible. Be well, and much love to you all. Thanks a lot.